Christian McCaffrey taken to social media on Monday. Thanks for all the kind messages. The work continues, and he knows how to put that work in, and he has gotten rewarded for the work.
Yes, he does.
He has performed in 3 NFL seasons, $16 million per year on a 4-year extension. He's not even 24 yet, Chris, and he already. You'd call him. We just call him the best running back in football right now. There'll be some other guys that could make an argument that they're as good, if not better. But 1,000 yards rushing, 1,000 yards receiving, only the third guy in NFL history to do it, joining Marshall Faulk and Roger Craig. I'd say that puts him up there.
Yeah, I mean, he's the best all-around running back in the sport right now. I got no problem saying that. Do I believe maybe he's the best pure runner in the sport? No, I think that's debatable. I would say there's 2 or 3 other guys in that conversation, but regardless,
Who?
Well, I mean, I'm gonna look at Nick Chubb. I'm gonna look at Dalvin Cook in that conversation. I think those guys got special attributes. I mean, Ezekiel Elliott, if he can improve on what he did last year too, he could be special that way. And Derrick Henry, I think they're in the conversation for that best pure runner type guy. But none of them are as good as McCaffrey is in the pass game. I mean, McCaffrey learned how to run routes from his father. His father is an all-time great route runner. So now you're a freak of nature with muscles popping out all over your body, and your dad's taught you the nuances of running routes. He runs routes as good as any receiver on the Carolina Panthers, and that's really what separates him, let alone he's got great physical ability.
A couple of guys who are clearly on deck for long-term contracts or not. Derrick Henry of the Titans under the franchise tag this year. He has signed the tender. He and the Titans have until July 15 to work out a long-term deal. And Kenyon Drake, traded from the Dolphins to the Cardinals last year, did enough to get the Cardinals to say, see you later, David Johnson. Put the transition tag on Kenyon Drake at $8.48 million this year. He has that July 15 deadline as well. And, Chris, here's the challenge for the teams. Do we make the major financial investment and run the risk of what we've seen happen when so many other running backs get that huge pot of money, or do we say, keep chasing the carrot, you'll get rewarded eventually by us or maybe by someone else?
Well, I think that's where the teams are going to have to really take into account the player that they have on their roster and his injury history and where he's at that way. I think Carolina was very comfortable with Christian McCaffrey because they've seen the way he works and they know the state of his body, which is his business. That's what it is. He hasn't been injured a lot. And, Mike, we talk about this a lot. He's not a car crash runner. The one thing we've seen with Christian McCaffrey, all these carries at Stanford and now into the NFL, he's got such great quickness and elusiveness. He very rarely gets squared up and crushed. And that's what I think teams are going to have to take into account is what type of football has that running back played? What's the state of his physical condition? And do we feel comfortable paying him? And if you feel comfortable paying him and you feel all those things are in the positive direction, like, wow, I think we could do it. To me, the smart move is to get out in front of it and pay the guy, after the 3rd year and just get it done and throw him out an offer that's big time, but maybe a little bit below market value or whatever it may be. But I think you're going to get a lot of running backs to bite the hook on that one because they know how dangerous the position is and that they only got a certain amount of years as far as shelf life is considered playing running back in football.
Yeah, I mean, for McCaffrey, the biggest injury risk would fall into the Tom Brady, Chris Simms, L.A. Lakers, purple and yellow down there category when he tries to hurdle someone who's wearing a helmet, which I think they've convinced him to not do that. All you have to do is take a helmet to a sensitive area once, and you probably learn not to do that, Chris.
It started as Baltimore Ravens, and then it worked its way to Los Angeles Lakers colors, okay? Just so you know. Right. It was very purple and black, and then it got to yellow and purple, okay?
That's when you know it was a deep bruise when it turns yellow. That's your medical training for today.
Thank you, Vince Wilfork.
Couple of other guys who currently are on deck, currently are eligible for new deals and want them. You mentioned Dalvin Cook. We've talked in the past about Alvin Kamara. And look, Kamara is the guy that the Saints would say is every bit as good as Christian McCaffrey. They just don't give Kamara the touches that the Panthers give McCaffrey. The Saints were one of the pioneers at the rotating running back. Remember when they got Reggie Bush and we all thought he was going to be Gale Sayers? We thought he was going to be the guy who was at USC, and he ends up being part of a three-man weave at running back. That's what the Saints do. They use at least two guys. So Kamara hasn't had a chance to generate the big numbers, but per touch, he averages 5.82 yards. McCaffrey averages 5.87. So per touch, they're pretty much the same level of performer.
Well, they do. I mean, Kamara's special too. There's no doubt about it. And Mike, like we talked about with McCaffrey, the importance to him and that football team in Carolina because of Joe Brady running the Sean Payton offense. As you and I both know, a guy like Alvin Kamara he's everything. It's Michael Thomas, get him the ball, and then it's a category of plays on Sean Payton's playlist that is get Alvin Kamara the ball, not only to run the ball, but to catch the ball out of the backfield. So, yes, I don't think he's as talented as a runner as Christian McCaffrey is, and nor do I think he's quite as good of a route runner, but Alvin Kamara is certainly in the conversation for one of the best running backs in football. But, to your point, Mike, how much can he command when he doesn't have maybe the numbers that are eye-popping like a Christian McCaffrey or some of the other running backs in football?
Yeah, look, here's the question you have to ask yourself. If you're an Alvin Kamara, do you understand that you're not going to get that huge contract, but the way they're using you, you're going to earn and you're going to play a lot longer. You're not going to flame out. And, there was a time when I would ask running backs, would you rather be the guy that has the ball 25 to 30 times a game, or do you understand the value of being part of a rotation? And it was almost 100%, I want the ball, I want the ball, I want the ball. Now I think guys are starting to realize there's value in longevity. There's value in, hitting ground rule doubles over the course of 10 years versus hitting a home run for 2 or 3. And so I don't think the Saints aren't going to give Kamara $16 million a year. They probably won't give him $15 million a year. But the thing is, he's going to continue to be a key member of that team. And this is the argument that Sean Payton and or Mickey Loomis need to make to his agents. He's going to make a hell of a lot more money over the next 10 to 15 years. 15 may be a stretch, but over the next 10 than he would if we did burn him up the way the Panthers are burning up Christian McCaffrey.
Yeah, I think that's a real conversation. That's something Alvin Kamara is going to have to weigh himself. And then also know where his body is at in that conversation. He was a guy that was banged up last year. He told us that. He didn't feel 100% until the end of the season. But, I look at Kamara. The other one you brought up with Dalvin Cook, that would be the guy that I would be most concerned about if I was advising them, because Dalvin Cook is a car crash runner. He runs through that hole like a bat out of hell, and he takes people on. And, yes, he can outrun them and make them miss, but he's certainly not shy of contact, and he's not a big guy either. That would be a guy, if I'm Dalvin Cook, I'm starting to go, Minnesota, I don't know how good you guys would have been last year if it weren't for me. And I might be starting to ask for money. That would be one that jumps out, Mike. And how about this guy, too? We forget about how great – okay, go ahead.
I want to say one thing about Dalvin Cook, and then we got to take a break.
Okay.
He's missed 19 games in 3 seasons.
Yeah.
Last year was his first healthy year in the NFL, and they love Alexander Mattison. I mean, there's no guarantee the Vikings are going to pay Dalvin Cook. They may just turn it over to Madison and just keep that meat grinder going and find a guy every few years like the Broncos did when they first perfected the zone blocking, the one cut,
Right.
find somebody else, and never give anyone that big contract. The Vikings learned the hard way what happens when you give a running back a big contract. He kind of takes over your offense, and you become one-dimensional like they were with Adrian Peterson.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.